You're standing in line, you've got a couple bags of groceries, and you're doing that thing where you pretend you're just scrolling, but really you're checking. You see the number, you do the math in your head, and you're like, okay, I can make this work. If you live on a small income, the money rules don't just get harder. They change. And I'm not here to guilt you into eating beans in the dark. And I want you living well, not just surviving. So here's what we're doing. First, we're gonna stop the silent monthly leaks that keep you feeling trapped. Then we're gonna build a setup that makes your week feel calmer, even if your paycheck stays the same. And finally, we're gonna create margin. Without pretending you can magically double your income overnight. Let's make this real with a number. If you bring home $2,800 a month and your fixed bills eat $2,200 of it, you've got $600 left for food, gas, life, and anything fun. That's not a discipline problem, that's a math problem. But if fixed bills drop to $1,700, you've got $1,100 left. Same income, totally different life. So the goal isn't some perfect budget. The goal is breathing room. When you've got breathing room, you stop making panic choices. You stop paying stressed-out fees like overdrafts, late charges, and last-minute convenience spending. Here's the reassurance. You're not behind because you don't make enough. You're behind because the system around your paycheck is set up to squeeze you. And we can change the system. One more quick benchmark to lock in what small income really means in practice. If your rent is $1,200 and your take-home is $2,800, rent alone is about 43%. That's already pushing you into hard mode. So if anyone's ever told you, just save 20% and you laughed out loud, yeah, you're not crazy. All right, let's talk about the sneaky stuff that makes a small income feel smaller than it is. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Common mistake, people attack the easy targets first. They'll cut streaming, skip coffee, and feel proud, while a car payment plus insurance quietly eats $650 a month, or a phone plan plus add-ons hits $140 a month. Those are the heavyweight bills. The lattes aren't the villain. Better approach, you treat fixed costs like gravity. You can fight it all day, or you can stop carrying extra weight. On a small income, your best wins usually come from 3 to 5 big decisions, not 50 tiny ones. Do this week. Pull up the last month of transactions and circle every bill that hits, even when you're having a good week. Rent, car, insurance, phone, subscriptions, minimum debt payments. Add them up. That number is your fixed cost floor, and it's the single most important number in your whole money life. You've got your floor. And this is where people usually get discouraged because they realize they're already committed before they even buy groceries. So let's use a simple scorecard that actually fits real life. If your fixed cost floor is under 50% of take-home, you've got room to save and still enjoy your life. If it's 50% to 65%, you can still build stability, but you need a plan and you need to protect your flexibility. If it's over 65%, you're not bad with money, you're boxed in, and the move is to change the box. Let's put numbers on it. Take-home is $2,800. 65% is $1,820. If your fixed costs are $2,100, you're at 75%. That means even a small surprise like a $120 car repair doesn't feel small, it feels like an emergency. And this is where the rules change. On a small income, the goal isn't to optimize spending. The goal is to stop volatility. Volatility is what makes you feel broke, even when you're doing everything right. Here's the first trap people fall into when money's tight. They don't separate monthly bills from not monthly bills. So things like car registration, birthdays, school stuff, haircuts, a dentist visit, or the random "why is the internet bill higher this month" moments, those show up and wreck the whole plan. So instead of trying to be perfect, you build buffers on purpose. I'll give you a simple way to do that without turning your life into spreadsheets. You pick 3 sinking funds. That's just a fancy way of saying, I'm going to save a little each month so future me doesn't get punched in the face. If you know you'll spend about $600 a year on car maintenance, that's $50 a month. If holidays usually cost you $400, that's about $35 a month. If you've got medical co-pays and prescriptions that average $300 a year, that's $25 a month. That's $110 a month total, and suddenly the random stuff stops being random. Common mistake, people wait until the surprise happens, then they borrow from the next month. That's how you get stuck in a loop where every month is paying for last month's problems. Better approach, you prepay your own life, not with a credit card. with tiny, boring transfers that make you feel like you've got your hands on the steering wheel again. Now, I want to talk about something that sounds small but changes everything on a small income: the timing of your money. If you get paid every 2 weeks, some months you get 2 checks, some months your bills hit before payday and it feels like your bank account's playing tricks on you. So the goal becomes simple: separate bill money from living money. When everything sits in one bucket, you're constantly guessing. Guessing creates stress. Stress creates impulse spending. Impulse spending creates guilt, and guilt makes you avoid looking at your numbers. That's the cycle. So here's what a calm setup looks like. You have a bills account and a living account. Your bills account holds your fixed cost floor. Your living account is groceries, gas, and fun. If you want to get fancy later, cool, but you don't need fancy to win. Let's say your fixed cost floor is $1,800 and you get paid twice a month. You send $900 from each paycheck to bills. Everything else stays in living. Now, when you open your banking app, you don't have to wonder if that money is real. You already decided. Do this week. Open a second checking account or a separate bank bucket and route one automatic transfer on payday, even if it's only $200 at first. So bills stop competing with groceries in your head. Notice what we're doing. We're not pretending your income is bigger. We're making your money less chaotic. Okay, now let's hit a quick case study because this is the part that makes people finally believe it. 2 friends make the same take-home pay, $3,200 a month. Friend A has rent at $1,450, a car payment at $380, insurance at $170, phone at $110, and minimum debt payments at $220. Fixed cost floor, $2,330. That's about 73%. Friend B has rent with a roommate at $1,050, no car payment but a paid-off car, insurance at $140, phone at $45, and minimum debt payments at $120. Fixed cost floor, $1,355. That's about 42%. Same income. Friend A has $870 left. Friend B has $1,845 left. That's almost $1,000 a month of difference without either person working harder. And yeah, sometimes you can't just snap your fingers and get cheaper rent, I get it. But this isn't about shaming anyone. This is about seeing where the leverage lives. On a small income, your life gets better when one of these shifts happens. Housing gets lighter, transportation gets lighter, or debt gets lighter. You don't need all 3 at once. You need one meaningful win. If you're thinking, okay, cool story, but my rent's my rent, then we shift to the next biggest lever: transportation. A $450 car payment doesn't just cost $450. It often pushes your insurance up. It pushes your maintenance up because you're more stressed and delay repairs. It pushes your gas spending up if it's not efficient. So that one bill can easily be $650 a month in real life. Now compare that to a boring paid-off car, even if it needs $800 a year in repairs. That's about $67 a month plus insurance. That gap is the difference between saving and constantly catching up. The point isn't that everyone should drive some sad junker forever. The point is that on a small income, a car payment is a lifestyle choice that charges interest. And this is where people get weird advice. They'll hear, never finance a car, like it's a moral thing. The truth is simpler. If the payment forces you to carry credit card balances or kills your savings, it's too much car for your income right now. So if you're stuck, ask a more useful question. What's the smallest change I could make that frees up $200 a month? Because $200 a month is $2,400 a year, and $2,400 a year is the difference between being one emergency away from broke and having an actual buffer. Let's talk about debt for a second, because debt on a small income doesn't just cost money, it costs options. If you've got a credit card at 24% APR and you're paying $120 a month, you might feel like you're doing the responsible thing, but if $90 of that is interest and only $30 is principal, you're basically renting your own past spending. So the game becomes, wipe out the high-interest stuff fast enough that your future paycheck isn't already spoken for. Here's a clean way to do it without turning into a monk. You keep a mini emergency fund, say $500 to $1,000, so you don't bounce back to the card the second life happens. Then you throw every extra dollar at the highest interest debt until it's gone. If you free up even one minimum payment, like $60 a month, that's not just $60. That's $60 you can redirect into your sinking funds or savings or groceries when prices spike. And speaking of groceries, let's kill a myth that makes people miserable. The myth is that living well means spending a lot. That's not true. Living well means spending on what you actually care about and cutting the stuff you don't even enjoy. A small income actually forces you to get honest, and honesty is powerful. So instead of budgeting, think in terms of buying your peace. If take-home is $3,000 and you can carve out $60 a week as no-guilt fun, that's about $240 a month. That's enough for a couple meals out, a hobby, a date night, or whatever makes you feel like a human. When you don't plan fun, you binge fun, and binge fun always costs more. Now, here's the part that sounds boring but changes your day-to-day mood. Default meals. Not never eat out, not meal. Prep like a bodybuilder. Just having 3 cheap solid meals you can rotate when life gets busy. If eating out is $14 a meal and you do it 5 times a week, that's $70. If you cut that to 2 times a week, that's $40 saved weekly, or about $180 a month. That's real money, but it also doesn't feel like punishment if you've still got planned fun. And this is the sneaky thing. Planned fun stops revenge spending. Now, I'm going to give you one realism sentence and then we move on. If your income's truly below your basic needs in your area, no system will fully fix that without either lowering your biggest costs or raising income. Okay, now we talk about raising income, but in a way that doesn't sound like just start a business nonsense. On a small income, you don't need a huge raise to feel a huge difference. You need margin, and margin can come from surprisingly small moves. If you make $18 an hour and you can get to $20 an hour, that's $2 more per hour. Over 40 hours a week, that's $80 more. Over a month, roughly $320 before taxes. Even if you only keep $250 of that, that's a sinking fund plus savings plus a little fun. That's not flashy, but it changes your life. So the question becomes, what's the fastest path to a small bump that sticks? Sometimes it's overtime, but overtime can burn you out. Sometimes it's switching companies. Sometimes it's getting a certification. Sometimes it's a side gig that's actually predictable. Predictable matters. A random $600 one month and $0 the next feels exciting, but it doesn't build a calmer life. A steady $100 a week is $200 a year. That's emergency fund money. That's debt payoff. That's I'm not panicking anymore money. Now, I'm not going to tell you to stack 3 jobs and sleep 4 hours a night. The goal is to build a system you can live with. So here's a decision tree you can run in your head. If your fixed cost floor is over 65%, your first mission is a structural change. That might be roommates, renegotiating rent at renewal, moving when the lease is up, selling a car you can't afford, or refinancing insurance and phone plans. It's not glamorous, but it's the move that creates oxygen. If your floor is 50% to 65%, your mission is stability. That's sinking funds, separating bills from living money, and killing high-interest debt so surprises stop throwing you into chaos. If your floor is under 50%, your mission is momentum. That's building an emergency fund to 1 month, then 2 months, then 3 months, and putting a small automatic amount into savings or investing so the future starts getting paid. And if you're thinking, investing on a small income? I'm not talking about maxing retirement accounts. I'm talking about identity. $25 a week is $300 a year. It's not about becoming rich overnight. It's about proving to yourself you're building something. Because the real flex on a small income isn't a fancy car, it's having options. Let's do a quick before and after timeline that shows what options looks like. Before, you've got $0 saved and every surprise goes on a card. You're stressed, so you avoid looking at your accounts, so you miss fees. So you're more stressed, you're always behind. After, you've got $1,000 saved. Now the flat tire is annoying, not catastrophic. Then you build to $2,000. Now you can handle a rent increase or a medical bill without spiraling. Then you get to 1 month of expenses. Now you can say no to the worst boss behavior. That's when your life starts to feel bigger than your paycheck. And notice, none of that required a lottery win. It required a sequence. Here's another common mistake that people don't talk about enough: trying to fix everything at once. They slash every category, track every penny, and by week 3, they're exhausted and they quit. Better approach, you pick one lever per month. 1, you win one thing, then you stack the next. Month 1 might be the bills and living split, so your brain calms down. Month 2 might be cutting the phone bill from $110 to $45 by switching plans, which is $65 a month or $780 a year. Month 3 might be fixing insurance quotes and saving $40 a month. Month 4 might be paying off a small balance so you free up a minimum payment. That's how you build a life that feels good on a small income. Not by punishing yourself, by stacking small structural wins until your cash flow stops feeling like it's on a cliff edge. Now, I want you to zoom out and think about living well for real. Living well isn't buying everything you want. Living well is waking up and not feeling dread when you check your phone. It's being able to say yes to the stuff that matters and no to the stuff that doesn't. So we're going to define matters in a way that actually helps you pick one quality category, just one. Maybe it's food, maybe it's fitness, maybe it's your home, maybe it's travel, maybe it's hobbies, and you're going to spend on that on purpose. Then you pick two low-value categories, and you're going to cut those without guilt. If you love coffee shops because it's your one peaceful hour, keep it. But then maybe you stop paying for subscriptions you don't even use. Or you stop bleeding money on delivery fees that don't actually make you happier. Because when you spend on purpose, you feel rich. When you spend on autopilot, you feel broke. Do this week. Choose your one quality category and set a real monthly number for it, like $60 or $120. Then cut two low-value expenses to fund it. So you're not being good. You're building a life you actually like. Now we're in the final stretch, and we're not adding new fancy concepts. We're just tightening what already works and making it stick. You've got three pillars now: fixed cost control, volatility control, and margin growth. That's it. Fixed cost control is those heavyweight bills. Volatility control is sinking funds and separating bill money from living money. Margin growth is small, realistic income bumps plus not letting expenses eat every raise. Let's run two quick examples so you can see how it plays out. Example 1, take home is $2,600. Fixed cost floor is $1,850, so you're at about 71%. Can't out-budget that. The move is structural. If you can reduce rent by $250 with a roommate or a move at renewal and cut your phone by $40, that's $290 a month. Now your floor is $1,560, which is 60%. You just went from trapped to workable. Then you put $50 a month into car sinking funds, $30 into holiday sinking funds, and you've still got more flexibility than before. Example 2, take home is $3,500. Fixed cost floor is $1,900, so you're at about 54%. That's workable. You route $950 from each paycheck into bills, you set $120 a month total into sinking funds, and you set $60 a week as no guilt fund. If you can add a steady $100 a week side income, that's about $400 a month. Now you've got the ability to build a 3-month emergency fund in under a year without living like a robot. That's what living well looks like in math. Calm beats chaos. Structure beats willpower. And if you've been stuck in the cycle for a long time, here's what I want you to remember. You don't need a total reset. You need one win that lowers stress, then one win that lowers bills, then one win that builds a buffer. Because once your buffer exists, your decisions get smarter automatically. You stop paying late fees. You stop buying the cheapest thing twice. You stop saying yes to every emergency because you've got no room. You start choosing. So here's the recap, and I want it to feel